Hello and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll Recipes. Today on the show we're going to be making Mongolian beef. Here's all the ingredients you'll need to make this recipe. Okay, so now that you've got all your ingredients, let's start with the meat. We've got a little bit of a flank steak here. We've got about 1.5 pounds or so. What we're going to do is we're going to cut these into strips that are about 1 inch and then turn them sideways and do another 1 inch. So they'll be 1 inch cubes. We are looking for absolute perfection here, so don't mess it up. I'm kidding, of course. It's just cooking. If you'll notice, I've got a cutting board on a cutting board because it makes cleanup a lot easier. Even though there's one extra thing, I don't have to worry about cross-contamination. So that's the way I do it. Keep in mind, these are going to be bite-sized pieces, not pizzas. We're not working magic here. So that's really the key of what we're looking for, is something that'll fit in between a chopstick or on a fork, however you prefer to eat. And that's that. So now that we've got that cut, what we're going to do is set this off to the side for just a minute. And we're going to make a marinade. So what goes into this marinade? Well, we're going to start with a little cornstarch. Going 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of water, 2 tablespoons of baking soda, not powder, soda, and a teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of oil. That oil and water don't mix. Oh no, that's all right. So what it's going to do is coat the outside of the meat and keep it from sticking to the wok. So I didn't get anything to stir with. So we're just going to work this together. Yeah, see, that's all we needed. We're going to call that good. So now we've got our marinade. We're going to put our meat in our marinade. And then what we're going to do is just really work this into the meat. Make sure it's coated really, really well on all sides of all the meats. This is a fun part where you can get your kids involved if you've got kids and you want to teach them some fun recipes. This is a good one for that. Or if you just like to have dirty hands nonstop, this one's also for you. All right. So we've got it all marinated. We're going to cover with plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for anywhere between 2 hours all the way to as much as overnight. So I'm going to go keep the same clothes on, and we'll be back in the morning, perhaps. Well, our meat has been sitting in the refrigerator doing its marinating thing for a while now, and we're going to go ahead and work on the other 2 steps for our prep, which is getting the vegetables chopped up that we're going to be using in the stir fry, as well as making the sauce that's going to bring all this together in this wonderful dish. So we're going to start with our onion. We've talked a lot on this channel about how not to cut an onion. So we're not even going to go there this week. We're going to be cutting our vegetables in large dice. So we want them to be also the same 1 inch cubes, roughly, that our meat is, so that everything cooks all together. So this is going to be a super easy chop. Done. One onion down. 1 bell pepper. So I'm going to teach you my way that I cut bell peppers whenever I'm doing stuff like this. If you do it right, this is super easy. So don't be intimidated by it. We're going to do it one step at a time on this first one, and I'll show you another one because we're doing red and green. So what I'm going to do is go about 1/2 inch on the top, cut the whole thing off, do the same on the bottom. You'll know you did it right if you can pop off the hat, just like that. That's all you need to get rid of in a bell pepper. Everything else is good to go. So, minus the guts. So let's go ahead and gut this dude, shall we? I'm going to go choose a spot right here. What I'm doing is going along the outside edge of this and getting rid of the ribs. And I'm just rolling it as I go. And if it's in your way and you can't see, chop it off and get it out of the way. It's all right. I couldn't have messed that up anymore. Just like that. You've gotten rid of the ribs, most of the seeds. Not a big deal. The other thing I want to make sure that everybody does is wash your peppers before you start chopping them up. They're a lot easier to wash whenever they're one big piece versus a whole bunch of little ones. I don't know about you, but I don't know who all has been handling my produce, so I wash it. So what we're going to do, we're only going to need about half of this. So for the purpose of today, what I'm going to do is this and the tops, and I'm going to set this over here. So 1 inch strips. Doesn't have to be exact, not a big deal. Okay, there's that, right? So remember I said you can use a whole pepper. Here's how not to waste that. Done. That one's a little big. Done. Same thing. Some of these on the top, you can see just a little bit. It's totally fine to eat. I just am kind of I'm a little anal about that kind of stuff. Okay, green pepper. Now I'm going to look at this, and I can already tell I'm going to use just a little bit more pepper. Good enough. We'll save that for a rainy day. Actually, this is good tomorrow morning. Put in some eggs, put in whatever you want to make for a nice breakfast. And if you don't, put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in the freezer. It'll be good there for a long time. All right, same thing. Going red though. And this is a monster red pepper. Let me just say that. I keep doing that. There you go. There's the top. Get out of here, top. Okay, so we're going to go in and down across that first rib, and then we start rolling. Done deal. If you look, there's your waist. Here's what you want to keep. Easy. And there's the red. All right, so next we're going to go with our scallions or green onions, whatever you want to call them. And I'm going to show you how I clean these up. So a lot of times they look fine and you can use them right out of the store. Other times they've got this weird little, well, what is this one piece? Well, I'm just going to take it off. The rest of that looks all right. See how flimsy this looks? We're going to just, done. Same thing. That outer layer sometimes just gets more wear and tear, you know, so we're looking for only the best. I know, I feel like a lot of people at home are like, I've never done this, Jared. What's all the madness about? Call me picky. It's all right. Maybe I am. So what we're going to do is use most of these. We're going to line them up, take the bottoms off. We don't need those. And I'm going to separate the leafy green part to the hardy not. This we'll set aside for in a minute. What we're going to do is turn these on a bias. So the angle that I usually look for is the letter V. So we're looking for, all you mathematician nerds out there, what is that, 45 degrees? Something like that? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Don't make it difficult. And then we just cut them on a bias. It just makes it look fancy. Okay. And set those over here. Now, what I'm going to do is do the same thing on these, but cut them very fine because these are going to be our garnish. See how much nicer that looks than just a straight across cut? Like, we eat with our eyes first. Don't ever forget that. Okay, good enough. I need another bowl. I'm going to get another bowl. So not a junk bowl, because this is all totally good to eat. I'm just going to call it my tomorrow bowl, because it'll be good tomorrow. That'll never be good, unless you're trying to grow and be all farmery. Okay, and now we got some garlic. We've got 4 cloves of garlic. Whoa, why is your garlic all purple? Just older, man. Just needs a little more love. It's all right. You know the deal. Mash it. Don't kill it. Yet. We're just looking to peel these. There you go. Now then, normally I would use one of those fancy garlic presses, but today we want these to be not finely minced. We want these to be chopped. Trying to think of we're looking for pieces that are kind of similar in size to this little green onion here. We're not looking for a super fine dice. So the easiest way to do this is to go ahead and press down. And the reason for this is because it's hard to cut things that are different heights and stuff, because then you've got to do all this, and that's really dangerous. So if you kind of mash it down, get everything on the same playing field, and if a knife doing that scares you, and then we're just going to come in here and chop all this up. The reason that we don't want this to be super fine is because we're going to cook this in oil first. Normally, you won't see me do that kind of thing, but in Asian cooking, you want that garlic to really infuse in your oil flavors and your meat flavor and all that. So, because of that, we are going to keep them kind of big. That's how we do our garlic. Now then, for the tricky part, but don't be intimidated by. We've got some fresh ginger. Now, can you use like some store-bought, pre-done ginger paste or ginger whatever? Of course you can. But why would you when you've got fresh ginger? I used to think, oh my gosh, that seems like it'll be really expensive. This is probably like 15 to 20 cents for this little piece. It's super cheap. So the easiest way to do this is to get you a square part for it to sit on, okay, like this. And then what we're gonna do, you can use either side of the knife actually, because this is like a very papery covering and it doesn't take much to get that off. If you look, I'm using the dull side of my knife and I can get that off. So it's not difficult. So I am going to use the back side of my knife for this. And if there's like a little bumpy part or whatever, just go over it and shave that down. I'm gonna flip it over and show you the difference. If you do it this way, just make sure you keep your knife straight up and down, not at an angle, otherwise you'll take massive chunks out of your ginger. Don't go really high up towards your fingers either. I'm gonna show you the best part of this. So once you've kind of got that, if there's a little piece of paper left, don't worry about it. It is edible. If all of that is too much for you, you can use the old-fashioned potato peeler thing. So then we're going to do the opposite. We're just going to flip it over on the other side and do the same thing. Ginger, when cut fresh, is super, super fragrant. I love the smell of it. I love the taste of it, but it can be very potent. So a little bit does go a long ways. I've got one little piece in the middle here that I'm going to try and carve out. I'm not using a lot of pressure at all. We're going to call that good. Get rid of some of this, clean this up. I hate having a dirty workspace, so this is the way that I cook at home too. I just am constantly cleaning as I go. A lot of that is how I grew up, because I'm the kind of person that gets really intimidated when I'm cooking. All of a sudden I look and I've just got a massive mess around me. I'm like, oh God, now I'm gonna be here for another 3 hours doing dishes. Okay, so now that we've got that all peeled, what we're gonna do is do some very fine slices. And these are going to be almost thin little tiles, if you will. Then we're going to turn those sideways. I'll show you with just one. And now what we're going to do is the same thing, just the other direction. Do not have to worry about going fast on this. It's better to have a nice fine piece of ginger than a massive chunk going into whatever you're eating. I've still got these stacked up, so I'm going to show you that you could do these multiples at once. There you go. These should almost resemble like blades of grass or something. You could see some of these are actually kind of still a little thick, so not a big deal. Slice them on up. Knife skills are one of those things that it takes time and it takes a lot of practice and a lot of doing it and doing it over and over and over. So don't get too upset if it's not perfect. Again, that's why I prefer to cook and not bake. All right, so looks like, let me scan everything over. We've got all of our vegetables chopped. So now we're going to make our sauce. But first, gotta hydrate. All right. So for the sauce, what we're going to do is take some oyster sauce, which I find revolting because I'm not a fan of seafood. But it is like the key. It is the parsley, the garlic for Italian, the whatever. This is the main. If you're going into Asian cooking and you need one type of sauce to put in something, that's where it's at. So because of that, we're going to go ahead and use it. So I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of oyster sauce. 1, 2, 3. And this is where a lot of like your saltiness, your umami flavor is going to come from. Then we're going to take some hoisin sauce, excuse me. This is also going to contribute to some saltiness, but it's also going to add some shine, if you will, to your sauce. So we're going to go 3 tablespoons of that as well. Was that 3?
No, that was 2.
Okay. Always have a producer in your kitchen. It helps. My brain is thinking 2 steps ahead already. So, okay, we got that. Now we're going to go in with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. That has got a lot of salt in it. So I sought out low sodium soy sauce. If you're a big fan of salt, Josh, I know you are, then just go for the OG. Oh yeah, because of the travel from here to the studio. I didn't care for, well, that works too.
You're just going to pour it in the spoon anyway, right?
That's right.
That's 2.
2. All right. Now we're going to add in a little bit of that chopped garlic. Probably about a clove's worth. And we'll add in a little bit of that ginger that we chopped up, oh so finely. We're going to add a half a teaspoon of white vinegar. We're going to do a little cornstarch and water. You don't have to do this. I'm going to do this in its own little separate bowl, just because I'm that extra. Now then, this is going to make this cloudy, but it's totally fine. Once that cornstarch comes to a boil and does its thing, it starts to thicken as a sauce, it won't be cloudy anymore, so don't worry about it. You're not messing your sauce up by adding this. Just give that a good mix. And we're going to set this over to the side. And we've got our sauce done. We've got our vegetables chopped. We got our meat marinating. Let's go ahead and pull that out of the refrigerator and we'll start cooking. All right, so we are back over here. We've got our marinated meat. Ours may or may not have marinated the whole 2 to 6 hours to overnight. So yours will look a lot more marinated than ours, but you get the idea. We're going to get this wok nice and hot. I want this thing to be like, not just like kind of ticked off at us hot, I want it to be pissed. And when you have heat that's that high, you need something with a higher smoking point so your oil that it's cooking in doesn't burn. I picked up some stir-fry oil, which is cottonseed oil. This one happens to have some garlic and onion and herbs and that kind of stuff infused with it. Not a bad selection. You can also use the vegetable oil if that's what you've got at home. Go for it. It's all right. You just probably don't want your pan quite as hot as what I've got mine. My go-to for something like this is avocado oil, which has a smoke point of like 450-ish, somewhere in that. So that's what we're going to use today. So I'm going to turn on some heat. I had this heat on a while ago, so it is not going to take long for this pan to get hot. In fact, and with the way that a wok is, you want to make sure that the sides are hot too, because you're using that whole surface area to cook with. So let me take its little temperature here. The sides are already at around 280, 290, 300. And here we are in the middle. We're already at 475, 490. So I'm going to back that off because, like I said, our smoke point for our oil is about 450. So we don't want the hottest part of the pan to be that hot. So we're going to call that good. And in goes our meat, which I should have had a somewhere. I've got some tongs. And we're just going to keep this moving. We're looking to get this at a medium rare before we start putting in our vegetables. So that's what we're going to do. Don't be afraid to add a little more oil if you need to. We are cooking with a lot of heat after all. My wok, by the way, is a fairly new wok. I have seasoned it, pre-seasoned it already, but it's not got like that years and years of great seasoning to it. So mine is going to stick a little bit, but I did properly season it, so it's as you can see, it's not terrible at all. The discoloration at the bottom, it's going to happen. It's a carbon steel pot, so that's the whole thing eventually will look like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way that the pans are. So I'm going to keep this meat moving. You'll know that it's medium rare when most of it is brown. You can see a little bit of pink through it. Again, I'm not looking for a temperature check on that yet. We just want to make sure that our meat isn't overcooked by the time that our vegetables are where we want them. So I'm going to cook this for just another minute or two, and then we'll start adding in vegetables. All right, good enough. We're going to go ahead and start adding in our vegetables. So for me, normally, I always say start with onion. But for this, I feel like these peppers take just a little bit longer to cook, so that's what I'm going to start with. I may not even use all of this. We'll just kind of see where we're at here. Yeah, good enough. And by the way, if you don't have a wok at home, you do not need to rush out to the store and get one. You can use a regular fry pan for this. It is totally fine. Any kind of skillet you've got will work just fine. It's just, you know, we've got a whole little show here. Just feels more authentic too. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add in our onion. The other thing that we're going to go ahead and add in now that I normally when I cook would not is our garlic. And a little bit of ginger we've got left. Again, the reason for that is because we want all of those to be infused with the flavor that we've got in all the vegetables, because we haven't salted anything. I am going to add a little bit of pepper, which is not in the recipe, but by golly, that's just the way I eat food. So I'm going to go ahead and take some pepper now. I'm not adding any salt to this though, because I'm telling you, when it comes to the stuff in the sauce, it is chock full of sodium. The low sodium stuff that I've got is 590 milligrams. That's a lot. That's more than most chicken stocks have. The hoisin sauce, another 560. The oyster sauce is another 600. That is plenty of salt. And if you think otherwise, add it to your own dish. It won't hurt my feelings at all. This already smells absolutely amazing. So we are doing all the right moves. The main thing is we're going to be looking for like our onions and some of our peppers to kind of get a little brownness on the edge. We're not looking to get these like totally caramelized and overcooked. We want them to still have a little bit of a crunch, a little bit of a bite to them. So we're gonna keep going. We'll be back. Okay, so most of our stuff is cooked down now. I'm gonna add our scallions. I didn't add those at the same time because those being much smaller, they're not gonna take that long to cook. We're gonna go ahead and add in some red chilies that are dried. And another thing that you can do is you can add red pepper flakes if you wanna just do that. That's an easy way to add a little bit of spice. What I'm going to do that I didn't do in our sauce is I've got some chili garlic sauce that I'm going to add into our sauce that we've got here, just to give it just a little bit of a kick. I'm not looking to make this into a big spicy dish by any means. I just want it to have some extra dimension of flavor. Because we've got our salty, we've got our sweet, we've got savory. Just need a little bit of spice. Looks like our vegetables are looking good. I could feel that they've softened up. They're not soggy by any means. They've still got a little bit of a bite to them, which tells me that we're really close. So now then we're gonna go ahead and add in our sauce. I'm gonna stir this one last time before it goes in. And now we're going to wait for this sauce to incorporate into everything. It's gonna bubble up and boil up, and it'll start to do its thing as it thickens, and it smells freaking amazing immediately. So this sauce is not gonna be like the soupy sauce that you see now. It's gonna be a nice, pretty glaze that goes over everything. And it's just really gonna add a lot of dimension to the flavors that we've got already. Remember that in order for cornstarch to activate and do its thing, I believe, if I remember my numbers right, which I'm not a numbers guy normally, I think it's 250 degrees that it has to go past for it to start activating as a thickener. I would hazard a guess we're there. So we're gonna let it cook and do its thing just a couple more minutes, and we'll be ready to plate it and eat it up. All right, I'm gonna turn off our heat, and then we'll be ready to eat. This looks delicious. So we're gonna call that done. All right, so we've got our Mongolian beef all done. Josh and I had our choice of either rice or noodles, which I have already done in advance. Yay, magic of television. We'll do that another time. We're going to go ahead and dish some of this up. So, just add that right in on top of our yummy goodness. It wouldn't be... Uh-oh, what did I do with those? The one thing I didn't ask Josh before we started is, can he chopstick? We'll find out. But, in the meantime, this is my Mongolian beef with noodles. We're going to give it a taste. Hopefully it's cooled down just enough. That meat is so good, so tender, full of flavor. Just a hint of heat. I probably could have added twice as much of that chili paste as I did, but it's good. Man, and those noodles are great too. All right. Well, I've done my part. Now it's time for you to do yours. If you would, be sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know if you make this recipe, how it goes for you. Or write down any recipes that you would like for me to try. Feel free to put them in the comments or send them to us on our audio roast page. Without any further ado, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.